Welcome back, everyone. We're Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, and the plebsites. Joining us today, sponsor of the show, we've got Daniel from CipherSafe. Daniel, thank you very much for joining us.
I'm happy to be here.
Cool. All right.
Looking forward to the conversation.
Well, you know where we're going first. We are diving into the numbers. Nikos, let's do it.
Number time! Brought to you by Nodl. They make some of the best Bitcoin nodes, like the Nodl One, the one I'm holding in my hand. Run your own version of Bitcoin Core, the Lightning Network, Whirlpool, and Dojo, all in the comfort of your own home. And there's no excuse now because they just released the Nodl Cloud. So if you're a digital nomad, a Bitcoin nomad, you could run a Bitcoin node over a virtual private server and you can interact with the Nodl UI. It's really cool. Check all this stuff out at nodl.eu.
At the time of this recording, the block height is 743,886. The Bitcoin price, 20,415. Chain rewrite days, 834. Total public lightning capacity, 4,088.53. Moscow time, 4897. Blocks to the halvening, 96,114. And the Samourai Whirlpool unspent capacity. Samourai Whirlpool is a CoinJoin or collaborative spend. It is not a mixing service. The unspent capacity for that pool is 4,810.30. And just want to mention, price is 20,420. I didn't say it initially, but I thought somebody would, kind of chuckle before I chuckled, but I guess I have to mention it.
What is the significance of 420, Phil?
There's no significance. It's just a good number.
It's just a good number?
It's just a good number, and we all have to appreciate it.
I'm just double checking. Anyways, I picked a very, very good topic that I know Daniel would appreciate. I totally just brain fart. I remembered his dog's name faster than Daniel's name.
That's good. Our marketing's working.
Even though I talk to Daniel all the time. And Nico can't read, Nico can't remember. Okay, anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. Important. We covered many times on this show how the whole ESG stuff, the whole environmental stuff is a scam. And more importantly, the reason that we cover it on Simply Bitcoin is because it's a mechanism on which they attack Bitcoiners. It's one of the attack Bitcoin mining, to be specific. It's an attack vector. Now, I just want to emphasize this because I know a lot of people are going to take what I say out of context. Does this mean that we are so-called climate change deniers? No. Does this mean that we don't care about the environment? Absolutely not. What we disagree in is the mechanism, the way in which you deal with these issues. We do not believe that making the bureaucracy bigger, right, is going to solve these problems. We are, in fact, for the free market solving these problems because just look at the track record. The free market has a much better performance versus the bureaucracy. And let me give you an example of how big this clown world bureaucracy is getting. This is a joke. Check out this headline by Reuters. EU Parliament backs labeling gas and nuclear investments as green. Yeah, that's right. You read that right. I'm not kidding. This is a real article. The European Parliament on Wednesday backed EU rules labeling investments in gas and nuclear power plants as climate friendly, throwing out an attempt to block the law that has exposed deep rifts between countries over how to fight climate change. The new rules will add gas and nuclear power plants to the EU taxonomy rulebook from 2023, enabling investors to label and market investments in them as green. Remember, this is all part of the ESG stuff, right? Why are they talking about investors? It's all part of the ESG stuff. Remember, if you're labeled as ESG friendly, you're a more friendly company to invest in, right? So the whole thing is a scam. And guys, look, like we caught the other so-called ESG approved fund investing in oil gas companies, right? This whole thing is a scam. Natural gas is now green. Nuclear energy is now green. Why are they doing this? Why are they pivoting all of a sudden? Well, because Germany shut down all their nuclear power plants and then Russia invaded Ukraine. right? And for anybody that doesn't know, Russia is a huge natural gas producer, and Europe still relies, I think it's like 40% on Russian natural gas. So think about it, right? Now all these European countries that are hostile towards Russia because of the invasion of Ukraine, all of a sudden they need energy. So all of a sudden nuclear energy and natural gas is green. This is why I'm talking about this, guys. This is a joke. This is a clown world. You can't take these people seriously. Listen, if they're really that principled, they would keep natural gas and nuclear energy as non-green. But because they need the energy now, because reality is smacking them in the face, all of a sudden, those things that are not so green in the past have been labeled as green. And therefore, now they're good at ESG investments. This whole thing is just ridiculous. So remember, when these people inevitably attack Bitcoin mining, remind them of this. And also, a little question for you, Phil. Does this mean now the Bitcoin miners that are powered by nuclear energy and natural gas, does that make them green now too? Just a thought.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right, Nico. That's what I was thinking as you were talking. I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, did we just win indirectly and they didn't want that to happen? Because think about it, right? There's people, there's people, companies like Upstream Data, that are, essentially going and fitting all of these gas producers, all of the, we'll say the fire runoff, right? The flaring, and they're fitting them all with these conversion units. So did everybody just completely ignore the flaring, and there you go, it's green. The other point is, I just want to bring up, this is all greenwashing, right? This has never had anything to do with the environment. I think that this is what a lot of people misunderstand, and I know that it's really empowering to get behind, some of these movements, right? Because it sounds great, it feels good, it feels like you're doing something right, but you really got to take a look at where the money is coming from and what the motivation really is. And then it becomes very difficult. And then you start to realize, well, you know what? They may have a really positive message, but unfortunately, the end that they are driving to is not the end that you as an individual necessarily want to have. Because this ESG narrative is not going to end with, everybody happy running through the fields and it's unicorns and rainbows. Okay, it's going to be every single person in a tiny little pod with like a really garbage VR headset living a life like a slave, for real. I know it sounds crazy, but we're driving towards that. And, let's face it, there's a nice portion of us that don't want to see that. So anyways, I just painted a dark picture. Daniel?
Oh, I agree. It's an attempt to go back to a feudal system, where your serfs depended on your feudal lord because he's got the power and the energy available to run things. And that's what's one of the major things that have grown society is the abundance of energy. And when you take that away, you take away civilization or severely reduce it.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. You control energy, you control people. Same with food. You control food, you control people. I actually picked this topic because I knew Daniel would like it and get his input in it as well. So yeah, it's total clown world. Like this is just such an exposure, Phil. Like, oh, it's green when we need it.
Well, that's it. No, but that's exactly it, right? It's green when we need it. But the problem is, at the end of the day, is that it never has anything, as you've said to me, right? Like it never has anything to do with providing any kind of actual change anywhere. It's always just to fit the current narrative. Like I always feel like it's always kicking the can down the road and we're always moving the goalposts. And those of us who are actually calling this stuff out, we start to sound insane.
Yeah, 100%. And this is just another example of central planning meeting reality. Okay, they thought, oh, we're gonna, just green all these energy producers. Look at how much more Germany is paying for power, electricity. Do you think those citizens signed up for that? Do you think they signed up? Do you think they knew this was coming? They would have never have agreed to this. So it was marketed, again, I'm not questioning the intentions, and I'm not questioning the nobility of fighting climate change. What I'm questioning is, dude, we've tried this. Look at the outcome. The outcome is showing you something totally different than your intended, what you want, what you were intending to do. And look, at the end of the day, just because you're not producing natural gas in your country and you're actually importing it from another country, it's what we're all sharing the same atmosphere. So I think it's just, look, it highlights their hypocrisy. And I just think this is going to continue. ESG must be called out. Not only is it an enemy of Bitcoin, it's an enemy of humanity. It's anti-human. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
The Daily Fail. Brought to you by Swan. Check them out. Swan Bitcoin. Automated savings plans. Instant purchases. They've got an app that's coming out. It is a DCA platform by fellow plebs. The link is down below. All right. I figured at this point we have so many gaslighting headlines that we could just probably pick one a day. So I'm going to attempt to do this. So this is our quick gaslighting headline of the day. Shout out to ICO Sonat for tagging me in this. Here we go. Shout out to Clown World, of course, for posting this. From Bloomberg UK, the surge in gas prices isn't as painful as it looks. That's right. Everything you're experiencing, you're not experiencing. Okay? You're just, whatever it is you think that you're actually experiencing, none of it's real. So, yeah, have fun. Keep going on with your life.
Cognitive dissonance?
It's not happening. You didn't just pay that. We didn't just charge you that. Everything's good. Anyways. Oh, it's insane. Okay, here we go. Of course, the meltdown continues. And we have this great video. This is a tweet from @Shire Hoddle. So here we go. Question: is Bitcoin maximalism dead? Answer: this could be it. I'm not going to be so presumptuous as to think I've killed it, but man, this has got to effing hurt. Whoa, killer blow. What is he talking about? He's talking about essentially this was a podcast. I'm just, look, I don't know what podcast, some shitcoiner podcast. Okay, and there's, what's his name? Ryan S. Adams on the upper left-hand side. He shills ETH all day long. I don't know who this dude is. And this is Nick Carter. So let's just take a quick listen, 30 seconds, and we're just going to, I guess we're going to admire. We're going to admire what's happening here, okay? Just take a second here and bow down.
I don't need these people for anything, right? They're not coming to me for investment. These are not the founders that I invest in.
Oh.
These are certainly not the people that invest in my fund. Tell you that.
I keep waiting for Bitcoin maximalism to die, though. Is it going to die? Is it dead already?
This could be it. I'm not going to...
This could be it.
I'm not going to, be like so presumptuous as to think that I killed it. But man, this has got to fucking hurt. There's not that many defectors left. Oh.
What? Okay, anyways, so look, obviously Bitcoiners started answering back, but I think my favorite response before we talk about this and we dive into the next part of the fail, we got a response from fellow Bitcoiner and Bitcoin maximalist John Carvalho, Bitcoin Error Log on Twitter, and this was great right here. He tweeted at Nick, want to do an interview so we can take bets as to whether you cry or rage quit by the end? Now, that's a great reference for those of us who saw the interview from, I believe it was 2018 or 2017 with Roger Ver, where Roger Ver rage quit on the stream. And here was a response from Alexander the Hodler. And yes, John did say Bcash one too many times, and he made Roger quit. So, okay. I'm gonna move this over to Nico. Before I say anything, what are your thoughts on what is happening?
I tweeted this today, so I'm gonna do it because it's original thought, and I'll pop it up for you guys on screen, and it's all capitalized, so I have to scream it. Or, if Bitcoin needed any one person, it would defeat the purpose of Bitcoin. Right?
Perfect.
So, yeah, like, he's talking as if, like, he's all-important God, and I only invest in founders, and Bitcoin maximalists need me. It would defeat the entire purpose if Bitcoin needed anyone. So Bitcoin maximalists don't need you. They don't need anybody. That's the whole purpose of Bitcoin, right? And I think that what gets below a lot of these people's like fingernails, like what really drives them crazy, is the fact that Bitcoin levels the playing field. So if you have 0.001 Bitcoin and if you have 10 Bitcoin, the Bitcoin network sees you the same, right? And then that also applies to people's mindsets, right? And also applies to the internet. Any pleb, right, could just go and call him out on his bullshit, and can't make them go away, right? So it's funny because I like Bitcoin, but as soon as BlockFi went to shit, and that's a company that Nick Carter invested in, fuck these plebs. When everything's going good during the bull, which is why we bring this up so often on the show. Yeah, we're all friends, kumbaya. But when the bear market hits, the reality of the situation hits, the reality that you invested in shitcoin companies, and what you're doing is you're excusing yourself. And when you invest in shitcoin companies, you're indirectly attacking Bitcoin. Your incentives are not aligned with Bitcoin. Your incentives are aligned with shitcoins. Shitcoins need to function, they need to work, they need to become successful in order for the shitcoin companies you invested in to become successful also. And this whole thing where, there's not enough Bitcoin companies to invest in, that's bullshit. I know Matt and Marty have a fund. Phil and I have invested in a couple Bitcoin companies as well. So this whole concept that, you need there's not enough Bitcoin, that's bullshit. That's an excuse. You're trying to chase the short-term yield, the short-term profits. You're not thinking long-term. So shame on Nick Carter, shame on his fucking elitism. Thank God for Bitcoin, because that shit doesn't fly here and it's driving him absolutely crazy. Max Kaiser said something really smart when he came on the show about a year ago. He said that Bitcoin exposes the egomaniacs. And this is exactly what Bitcoin is doing here. He really thinks he's special. No one is special in Bitcoin. We're all the same. We're all plebs. You either join the movement or you don't. It's really that simple. And Nick Carter, we appreciate what you've contributed, especially in fighting the Bitcoin climate FUD. But dude, that does not give you a pass here. And your reaction towards people calling you out really shows your true character. Anyways, Daniel, what are your thoughts, brother?
Exactly what I tweeted earlier today. It's you either die the hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And we've seen that in Bitcoin over and over and over. And it's sad to watch.
It's very well said, and unfortunately, it is true. That does end up happening to a lot of people, because eventually you get to a tilt, with power. With maybe you get enamored with your own success, whatever it is, and all of a sudden, an ego unchecked, unfortunately, usually de-evolves into a form of megalomania. Which is, it's all about you. And unfortunately, like that's what you can see here. I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel that, he could have just simply handled this gracefully. I don't know why, he chose the route that he chose. I mean, obviously you're muted.
It's obvious, Phil. It's obvious why he chose it, dude. He was riding high. Okay. Then his investments started to blow up. His investments start to blow up. It makes his VC fund look very bad. It makes him look bad. And the Bitcoiners were the first to call him out on that shit, and he fucking snapped. That's what happened. He snapped. And then you said it, you see it in the rhetoric that he was talking. Oh, you guys don't get into private equity, right? So it's like a defense mechanism. It's like he's soothing himself, right? He's trying to make himself feel better because of decisions that he took with VC. Now, here's the thing, dude, an investment is never 100%, unless it's Bitcoin, of course. So like if you're investing into a company, there's no guarantee that it's going to work out, right? So I'm not criticizing that, okay? But what I am criticizing, though, is his reaction and the elitism, and of course the attacking Bitcoin maximalism. Bitcoin maximalism and the so-called toxicity that everyone criticizes. The reality of the reality of the situation is that is a necessary, in my opinion, that is a necessary feature, right? Because this decentralized immune system that is Bitcoin Twitter, it always catches the scammers, always, and the people that hate it the most are the scammers, right? But it's never mentioned how many people that's saved, right? Look how much heat Corey's getting recently for calling out scammers, right? So anyways, Phil?
Yeah, no, what I was going to say was that this just made him look a lot worse, and perception is reality. So essentially it's like, he made these comments about, none of these people are investing in my VCs. I don't think, you shouldn't just assume, right? You shouldn't just assume that because somebody is a troll on Twitter, like, why would you make the assumption as to what wealth they have? I've known plenty of people in my life who don't look like they have two pennies to rub together, okay? And they probably have more wealth than the majority of people. So this is complete nonsense, and it's exactly what you said. It is total elitism, and it's really cringe to watch. And that video, look, you're going to get support from like the biggest scammers right now on the face of the earth. Literally, Ethereum is the biggest affinity scam. Nico, was it Saifedean that called it the asshole from which all the shit coins come from? Something like that. I don't know if it was him. I could be misquoting, but somebody said that, and I think it was him, and it was absolutely correct.
Well, it's definitely a great quote. So whoever said it that's an amazing quote. Anyways, Phil, what is the next fail?
I was going to say, do we have time for the next fail?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
We got like 10 minutes.
Oh, excellent. Okay, good. Here we go. Let's dive into this. This is going to be confusing AF. All right, moving on to some weirdness, but not really weirdness. I guess nothing's unexpected anymore in Bitcoin, right? Everything just kind of mutates and shifts. And apparently it looks like KYCAML is getting a bit of a facelift, or has gotten a bit of a facelift. Nico, you might appreciate this. Maybe Dr. Ron Paul, we might have to get him back on to talk about this at some point. Here we go, guys. Regulatory scrutiny increasing as crypto becomes financial stability risk. Oh my gosh, Nico, who could have ever foreseen this coming? Right? Let's be honest, they're not talking about shit coins, right? It's really Bitcoin and shit coins, okay? And that's right. Financial stability risk. We knew that this was coming because you can't just keep printing money into thin air and everybody losing faith on their money. You can't just keep doing that without finding a scapegoat. So here we go. It's been a sharp increase in regulations targeting the Bitcoin and shitcoin space, with regulatory bodies mainly in North America and Europe. Here we go. Found a global regtech regulatory technology firm, Cube. I've never heard of Cube before. Interesting. Let's just take a pause over here. What is regulatory technology, or regtech? Typically, regulatory technology or regtech provides the tools needed to facilitate governance, mitigate risk, ensure compliance, and deliver regulatory reporting. While financial services firms have leveraged technology for regulatory purposes for some time, regtech terminology first emerged at the end of 2016. Sounds like some made-up bullshit for some software you're going to sell. Anyways, moving on. Here we go. Cube said that there has been a 7,436% increase in Bitcoin and shitcoin related regulatory messaging in the past 4 years. That's pretty spicy. Compared to pre-2018. We've got to do something about this, Nico.
The government said more words about regulation. That's
Daniel,
what they're saying.
We need to fix this. There needs to be software that fixes this, and we need to make sure that we ensure compliance. Here we go. Don't worry, these guys are going to help. The report acknowledged that the Bitcoin shitcoin market has already grown to become a critical piece of the global financial system, and that risks from Bitcoin and shitcoins could spill over into the traditional markets. Very risque. As the participation of investors increases for Bitcoin and shitcoins, so too do the risks that market volatility for Bitcoin and shitcoins could have a knock-on effect for the global economy. It is fast becoming a financial stability risk. Okay. All right. So here we go. We're knocking on that door now. Here we go. Bitcoin's going to cause the end of money. Among the issues that Cube finds regulators have missed is here we go. Let's throw in some ESG sustainability aspect to Bitcoin and shitcoin. Okay, so it's not just the financial instability. Now we're going to sprinkle in some ESG into this. Here we go. So he argued that the failure to address the environmental impact of Bitcoin and shitcoins will lead to an inevitable clash of two titans that could set the trajectory of the modern financial world back significantly. Guys, these are terrible things. The world is coming to an end unless we give this company absolute power and let their software fix everything. Time is running out before the volatility of Bitcoin and shitcoin bleeds into the global financial stability. They may use stable coins as a blueprint for new regulation to come. Undoubtedly, international bodies will work tirelessly to tie centralized regulation together with a decentralized currency.
That makes no sense. That last part makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. None. Okay? These literally, I read you an ad for a company that is going to save the world with ESG. And they're going to stop the global financial stability by putting together these reports that there's been 7,000% increase about the words. I don't understand anything that these guys are doing, okay? I don't understand anything. I don't understand how they fix financial stability. I don't understand how anybody is even bringing these people in to listen to them. I just don't get it.
Shitcoin white paper.
It is. It sounds like one.
But I checked their website. There's no shitcoin yet.
Yeah, that's the key word, right? Regulatory token. Christine Lagarde's all about that. She's an advisor. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, so there's three things, right? They're bringing in financial regulation. Okay. They are also making sure that they're fixing ESG, okay? And they're also making sure that they're stopping, I don't understand, that they're making sure that the messages are in check for financials. I don't get it. I'm sorry.
Dude,
I went through it multiple times. I couldn't figure out what they do. I just know that they're helping the crypto world somehow.
I noticed they use that word, financial stability. That's a buzzword that all these central bankers are using too. But what they really mean by financial stability is financial stability for their jobs. That's what they mean. They're not really talking about the world. They're talking about themselves. And it's all projection, man. I would even make the argument that because the Fed's original stated goal was to calm down the volatility, right? To control inflation, to control unemployment, right? I would make the argument that if the Fed didn't exist, the free market would have done a whole lot better than the Fed. Keep in mind, guys, that the Great Depression, the recession of 2008, and all the other ones, right? But those are the ones that I'm most familiar with. That all happened under the Fed. All of it. All of it. The Fed was founded in 1913. The Great Depression, the whole Black Friday, the whole thing's what happened like 1929, right? 2008. What about that? What about this lunacy that has just happened just now? We're in like the beginning of it. I think we'll officially be in a recession not too long from now, right? But we know that we've already been in one. So they failed in their original mandate. I would say that it's central banking that is a danger to financial stability. Bitcoin is the cure. So it goes to what I've always been saying. When the central banks accuse Bitcoin of something, they're projecting what it is they do themselves. Anyways, Daniel, what are your thoughts, brother?
Well, they're the government, so if they have a failure, they got to do it bigger and harder.
Yep.
It's really the strangest thing. As I dove into this regulatory tech, okay, essentially what they're doing is that they're adding another layer on top of KYC AML, and for some reason this company is being given some type of a green light by the authorities to provide this ridiculous nonsense service. Which is already being provided and failing. To Nico's point, the Glass-Steagall Act, which I know some people are going to argue, but the Glass-Steagall Act was removed and the mortgage crisis ensued. So whether or not it was the cause, I'm not saying it was the cause, but it was definitely like a game of Jenga. You know, they took away a piece and everything could topple. Just say it.
Just saying. It's true. Go ahead, Daniel.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like since we've gotten into this fourth turning type of world we're living in now, the grifts get bigger and broader about everything.
Yep.
It's like they're trying to get their last piece of stuff before it all falls apart.
It's so obvious to it, and with the headline that you covered in the beginning, Phil, like the gas. Why it's not that bad. Remember the tweet from the White House, the infamous one? You're saving 16 cents on your barbecue this year. Why don't you guys tweet that again with the updated numbers? Like, it is total clown world.
Where was this year's tweet, Nico?
Oh, they're not going to have it. So total clown world, opt out, buy yourself some Bitcoin, opt out of the clown world. Yeah. Anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily News.
Brought to you by CryptoCloaks.com. They make some of the best 3D printed Bitcoin merch, like the famous 3D printed Bitcoin grenade toy. Comes in any custom color your heart desires. This just happens to be the best colors. Simply Bitcoin and Bitcoin colors. What if you want Peter Schiff? That's right, they make that too. Check out the open source node case things. The European store is now open. Take advantage of the promo code down below to get 5% off CryptoCloaks.com. All right, guys, so I've been telling you guys, I've been making the argument that we are entering the then they fight you stage, right? In fact, Phil and I have been making that argument for a while now, for about the last year. Bitcoin has reached a size that it no longer flies under the radar, right? It's captured the attention of these giant bureaucracies that, you know, I think they'll finally be revealed for what they are. I think that governments that are supposedly for the people, by the people, I think Bitcoin exposes all incentives, and I think it's going to expose that really a lot of these governments, instead of being by the people, for the people, they're by the government, for the government. But you still need to fight. And this is part of the fight. Our friend David Zell, he's been on the show, part of the Bitcoin Policy Institute. We've been on top of this. The Bitcoin Policy Institute is the lobbying arm of the Bitcoin industry. It's had major backers. And this is different than Coin Center. Even though I love Jerry Brito, I love his work. Unfortunately, all incentives are not aligned because Coin Center represents the Bitcoin and shitcoin industry versus the Bitcoin Policy Institute that just represents the Bitcoin industry. So this is a letter that came out today, or maybe it was yesterday, a couple days ago. But anyways, the letter is as part of the President's executive order. The International Trade Administration requested comments from the public on digital assets and U.S. competitiveness. We were pleased to submit this report. I'm not going to read you all of it because it's very long, but I'm going to read you the part that I think matters, and then we'll have a discussion on it. So this part of the thing is called policy considerations, right? Throughout its history, the United States has proven its ability to adapt and rise to meet new challenges on the world stage, guided by our constitutional principles of individual liberty and justice, and buoyed by our strong economy and the natural resources and human capital at our disposal. As a result, in times of technological change, other nations around the world look to the U.S. for leadership and guidance on how to navigate the novel and complex global issues that inevitably arise as a result of the proliferation of new technologies. Bitcoin and the rise of borderless digital assets is merely the latest technological paradigm shift analogous to the widespread adoption of the internet that possesses important policy questions that will need to be answered by every state on the planet. It is therefore imperative that the United States approach any policy framework for Bitcoin and digital assets with care and with an eye towards fostering the principles of freedom and self-determination that we seek to uphold. I think the last part is really important. Fostering the principles of freedom and self-determination that we seek to uphold. Now, here's the thing, guys. Here's the reality, right? Bitcoin is a threat to the administrative states, the administrative state. Bitcoin is a threat to the bureaucracy. Like Phil always points out, Bitcoin forces governments to, instead of extracting wealth, right, at the point of a gun, what we believe, and we talked a lot about this on yesterday's episode with Mark Moss and Svetsky, is it's going to force governments to provide value. Why do I say that? Because Bitcoin gives the power to the individual not only to vote with their wallet, but also their feet. It's very easy to take your wealth with you when it comes to Bitcoin, right? So I love the attempt, right, by the Bitcoin Policy Institute. But what I believe, and perhaps this is a little paranoid, but I think all Bitcoiners are slightly paranoid. I believe that this is really going to expose a lot of people in the federal government in their belief in what should the role of government be in an individual's life. I don't think they're going to give over the power of controlling people through the issuance of money and monetary policy lightly. So I admire this type of letter, but I'm also, and I think it serves the purpose of at least presenting our case, but I am skeptical of what the actual result, what the benefits or what the results of. I think it's necessary, but I also think that you're telling this to deaf ears. You're telling it to people that are not incentivized to believe this letter, to give up that power, so to speak. There was an image we showed you yesterday about how the modern capitalistic system works. It's really not a capitalist system. It's really crony capitalism, where the people at the top of the hierarchy, and it doesn't move, are politicians and bankers, right? Politicians and bankers are threatened under... Look at how they've reacted. Look at how the IMF has reacted. Look at how all the central bankers around the world have reacted to Bitcoin. Look at how some politicians have reacted to Bitcoin. And this letter is directed to them. They're not really incentivized to understand it. So I guess it's useful in the sense that at least we're putting it on the record. We're at least attempting to start a dialogue. But dude, Phil, perhaps I'm crazy. Perhaps I'm a little paranoid. But I just don't believe these people are willing to give up power, man. I just do not believe it. And after what I've seen the last year, I'm more confident in that belief more than ever, right? So yeah, Phil, what are your thoughts? First of all, shout out to David Zell, Bitcoin Policy Institute. You guys are freaking killing it. Donate to them. Help us in the swamp of Washington, D.C. David has a hell of a job in front of him. But, dude, I do not believe these people are just willing to have dialogue in the first place. That's my thoughts.
No, beautiful. You know what? Beautifully said. And the reality is that their money printer hasn't broken. Why would they, you know what I mean? Why would they give this up? What is the incentive? They just continue to print and people still value the money, right? Like you have a whole bunch of people, right, that create all types of material that glorify and that essentially create this mysterious allure about having as much of it as you can, even if it's absolute garbage and it's actually robbing us of our wealth. So, robbing us of our time, which really is our wealth. But anyways, going back to this whole thing, look, the government, they can't confiscate Bitcoin, as we know. They can't print it. So the only way to take it from us is that through, $5 wrench attack, some type of violence, or, which the government is not going to be able to do on an individual basis. The other way is what? Like we've said, they have to provide some type of value. The only way that we're willing to separate ourselves from our Bitcoin is if we believe that we are getting value in that trade. So if we don't get that, then we don't separate ourselves from our Bitcoin. And somebody may also argue and say, well, we could get scammed, right? We could end up giving our Bitcoin for a service or product from an entity that is acting as a government, and we may get fooled. Certainly. But guess what? Unlike the money printer, where they can just continue to print wealth, they would only have that happen once, and then they're not going to be able to do it again. Absolutely. So I think that, look, the key to Bitcoin is that it minimizes this behavior. I think that the more people, I think that this way of thinking with the money printer is it's old. And I think that what's going to happen is that the more people grow up and realize the virtue of Bitcoin, I think that, David Zell right now has, a big task ahead of him, but I think that over time it gets easier, right? It's their ice cube that's melting, not ours.
Absolutely. I think Svetsky has an amazing line, right? Which is time is on our side and it's not on theirs. Daniel, what are your thoughts on this? Does this surprise you?
No, but I will say I think overall you're right. It will change change the majority of their minds, but it does plant a little seed so that maybe there's one or two individuals in that position that at least gets them thinking. And, maybe nothing dramatic will happen for a long time, but it might be the beginning of the process. It's just like everything that Bitcoiners believe in. I mean, 10 years ago, there was a much smaller group of people that believed those types of thoughts. And it's grown a lot just in the last 10 years. So it's a slow process. And like you said, time is on our side.
Absolutely. I agree with that. That's a really good point. It's a slow crawl. I think it's because we get caught up because we cover it every day, right? You kind of lose sense of that. But anyways, real quick, another piece of news. It's signal, guys. It's really not noise. Usually I don't cover this type of stuff, but I started connecting the dots because right now is one of the greatest opportunities to start mining Bitcoin based on what I experienced in 2018. So I started making calls. I talked to the awesome folks at Luxor Pool. We've had a couple of them on the show, Ethan and Guzman. But let's talk about what the current state of Bitcoin mining is based on a little bit of my research and based on a little bit of the press releases as well. So this is a press release by Core Scientific. Core Scientific is this huge data center mining company, absolutely massive. Check out how many data centers they own. Data centers owned and operated by the company in Georgia, Kentucky, North Carolina, and North Dakota. The company now has multiple facilities operating in Texas. Significant future development is planned for Texas and Oklahoma. That's a lot. And Bitcoin mining is very expensive, especially when you start doing it on a large scale. But here's the signal, guys. This is the part I want to pay attention to. I'm going to connect this with my own research as well. During the month of June, the company sold 7,202 Bitcoins at an average price of $23,000 per Bitcoin. The total proceeds are approximately $167 million. As of June 30th, 2022, the company held 1,959 Bitcoins and approximately $132 million in cash on its balance sheet. Proceeds from Bitcoin sales in June were primarily used for payments for ASIC servers, capital investments, and additional center capacity. And here, check this out, guys. This is the signal. Scheduled repayment of debt. The company will continue to sell self-mined Bitcoins to pay operating expenses, fund growth, retire debt, and maintain liquidity. Now, I know what a lot of you guys are thinking. Is it normal for them to sell all that Bitcoin? No, it is absolutely This came kind of a little bit of as a shock. Now, they're still okay. They're still in the green. The latest gen Bitcoin miners, let me pull it up so you guys could have a visualization. This is a S19. Well, it is the XP, but whatever, it works for this. It's still, if you're getting a competitive electricity cost, I put here just for example's sake, 5 cents per kilowatt hour. It's still making about $9 a day. But it's not, and I think this is a really good chart, right? It's not as profitable as in April, where it's making $26 a day. So they're still in the green, these companies. However, right, they're still operating with a 30 to 40% margin. However, what we've noticed, right, is that a lot of these companies, a lot of these big mining operations have started to sell ASICs in mass to beef up their balances, so to speak. So it's not a problem right now. But, for example, if the macro environment gets worse, which I suspect there's a big possibility of that, I think a lot of these companies might be in problems. So not only do I think that right now what we're currently witnessing is a fire sale of ASICs. They're 70% off from all-time highs. But what I suspect we might see, right, in the next 6 months, specifically if the Fed remains hawkish, is that not only are we going to see a fire sale in ASICs, but we might see a fire sale in distressed mining operations as well. Because remember, a lot of these operations, they took on debt to fund themselves, right? So not only do they have to pay for the operating costs, right, like electricity expenses, maintenance, all that good stuff, but also they have to pay interest on their debts as well, right? So very interesting, Phil. Very interesting. But to be frank, though, I thought it was a lot worse than I originally imagined. And then I talked to the awesome people at Luxor, and they told me it was a different situation. It wasn't. They're still profitable, a lot of these operations, right? And then I connected the dots with, you know, the mining data based on that website, and then you started to see the picture yourself. But yeah, man, that's a lot of Bitcoin that they had to sell, my brother. That's a lot of Bitcoin.
You
I
know,
have a question.
Go ahead.
We know the Bitcoin reward is on a 4-year cycle, and you know that price crashes about 2 years in after the previous halving. I would think that'd be part of their business model and planning.
So it's funny you say that, because I actually prepared this time, and I was actually telling Phil back in November and December, you guys could go back to those episodes and say, hey man, this insanity is reminding me a whole lot of 2018. Why do I say that? Because you had all these pictures on Twitter of these people home mining, right? This is exactly what happened. People forget, but it's exactly what happened in 2018. So I think I told you, Phil, I was like, Phil, there's going to be a crash. I didn't know it was about the price, though, unfortunately. But I had a suspicion. I'm an idiot, right? I had a suspicion that a lot of these ASICs and the prices that they were going for were completely overvalued. We had ASICs selling for the S19 was selling for like $11,000. It's absolutely right now it's worth $3,500 to $3,900, right? So, dude, that's like a 60% haircut, right?
Still sounds expensive.
Yeah, 60 to 7% haircut. So yeah, but it's I don't know why they didn't notice, but I could have. Daniel, you know what? Why didn't the Celsius guys notice? Why didn't BlockFi notice? Right? And those companies, you had Pomp showing off saying BlockFi is making $50 million a month, but they just got acquired, right? Like for significantly less. Their valuation got cut in half, right? I think it was like a $5 billion valuation, went down to $250 million. There was a rumor that it was for $25 million at one point. Like, dude.
Right.
I think that it caught a lot of people by surprise, like it always does, which is surprising, which is really surprising. Phil?
Yeah, no, it's really, I mean, look, it's too bad. It definitely is, but at the same time, these types of situations create opportunities. Look, at the end of the day, when it comes to the mining, I really don't know that much. So this is actually the first cycle I've gone through having much more knowledge about mining thanks to you, Nico. So I never even really thought of this aspect, and to see that, that much Bitcoin was sold at 23K. I know that the people that you spoke with may have said, like, yeah, these operations are still profitable, but the thing is this, right? The macro picture, and this is, we call them black swan events and stuff like that.
To be specific, the machines are still profitable. So what they're mining, they're still very profitable.
Oh, okay, okay.
So
gotcha.
the operation rate, and then the debtor, the creditors or whatever, the people that they owe the debt to, they're looking, oh, those miners are still profitable, right? Which means that you could still pay me, right? So that's what I'm looking at, right?
Okay, gotcha.
And then again, like, I didn't just get the single data point from the Luxor guys. I also kind of connected the dots based on my own research, and it was basically telling me the same message as well. So anyways, that's a whole lot of Bitcoin, like you said. Crap. David Zell just messaged me. I asked him what his thoughts were on the previous thing. And here's his quote. Shout out, David. He says, the U.S. government needs to understand that while the majority of cryptos are pump and dump Ponzi's and pipe dreams, profound innovation is taking place, namely with Bitcoin and its Lightning Network. And this relates to the first piece of news. Thank you, David, for getting back to me. That's his quote. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily Meme Review.
Brought to you by Citadel 21. It's the best Bitcoin cultural zine. It's stories, articles, comics by actual Bitcoiners. Every volume has different artwork. This is the artwork for volume 10. It's the one that showed up first because it's pink and it's gorgeous. This is the artwork for volume 11. Volume 12 just dropped. It's being shipped to my house, so I'll be able to show that off. And this is the artwork for volume 2. Volume 2 is almost sold out. Why is it almost sold out? Because there's only 1,000 physical copies made per volume. So get your prints of Citadel 21 today before they run out. All right, everybody, welcome to the Daily Bitcoin Meme Review. We review Bitcoin memes. Memes play an essential role not only in Bitcoin culture, but in this narrative trench warfare that we're fighting every day, hand to hand, on the battlegrounds of the internet against governments and central banks. Anyways, first meme by J4Y3. How the government will defeat Bitcoiners. Phil, this makes absolutely no sense.
That's why I love it.
What does that mean? Free sats? I don't understand.
Yeah, so if you hop in the van, right, they kidnap you, right?
Oh,
that's how they get you.
That's
how they get you with free sats.
I get it now. All right, next one by Rothmus. This is like a quote. This is quoting someone, I guess someone important. He's wearing like the old, back in the day clothing. So anyone wants to live at the expense of the state, they forget. No, everyone wants to live at the expense of the state. They forget that the state lives at the expense of everyone else. Frederick Bastiat. Oh, that's what you were referencing. Yeah. You and Svetsky were referencing yesterday.
Yes.
There you go. Okay. Bastiat. Okay, I need to remember. I need to read some of his stuff. Anyways, next one by Greg Zag. This is his secondary account. He wanted to let everyone know. Damn, these morons might actually have a point. Hey, John, why do we pay taxes if they could just print as much money as they want anyway? And it's an FBI agent. An FBI agent would absolutely not think that whatsoever. They've bought into that. They've drank in that Kool-Aid so hard. Anyways, moving on to the real Shaw 256 Bitcoin tweet or meme. Who did this? And it's Peter Schiff as a dinosaur. To be honest, the latest news about Peter Schiff and his bank in Puerto Rico, man, I feel bad for the guy. I hope he has a happy ending there. When the government is going after anybody, I'm just not a fan of that.
Right.
Anyways, next one by Rothmus. 125 years ago, you didn't have to ask permission from... Side note. Dude, if that is not a good advertisement for Bitcoin, Peter Schiff, I don't know what to tell you. But I do hope things work out for you with your legacy system. Fiat thing. Okay. If it's in Bitcoin, that can't happen. Just saying. All right, moving on. 125 years ago, you didn't have to ask permission from the government. Collect rainwater, go fishing, own property, start a business, renovate your home, build a home, use a transportation vehicle, get married, hunt, own a weapon, cut hair, sell a product, protest, grow food on your property, set up a lemonade stand, sell food. You can do virtually nothing without being extorted by the government, obtaining their permission first. If you still think you're free, you're deluding yourself. You live in a tax farm as free-range humans. Okay, We've been talking a lot about tax stuff. All right, pay your taxes, everybody. Okay, color within the lines. But yeah, look, let's actually have a discussion about all of these things, though. It's absolutely true, and it's a self-fulfilling bureaucracy. It's not like the government actually cares about licensing all these things, right? Maybe you can make the argument that, using a car would be a good idea to license, right? But collecting rainwater, like, they license that, they regulate that because regulation creates more bureaucratic jobs, right? So it kind of becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, there's this other aspect where if they license all these things, that's an outsourcing of responsibility to the bureaucracy. Once you outsource responsibility, you become weaker as a human being, right? So it begs the question, right? If the government gets bigger and bigger, wouldn't that create weaker human beings? Because they don't even have to think for themselves. They just rely on the bureaucracy to take care of all their problems, right? So it's twofold, right? Should we really allow a country, a government, to regulate collecting rainwater? And the other aspect of it is, if there's just this giant bureaucracy controlling everything you do, you don't really have to think. You just become a cog in a wheel. Anyways, just some thoughts. But color within the lines, guys. All right, next one by Shiona. It's a criminal, and he's pointing someone at gunpoint. Give me your cash. I just reported you using my new Solana mobile phone. And then the criminal feels bad, and he hands him Bitcoin. He says, "You need this more than me." Oh, man. Awesome scores. And for that, I'm going to give it the new Cold Card MK4.
Oh,
it's pretty, and it feels...
You got the 4!
It feels as pretty as it looks. All right? It feels as pretty as it looks. And, of course, I store my seed and metal on a cipher wheel. Anyways, Phil.
Of course.
Boom.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, I am giving those awesome memes this awesome 1.21 gigawatts. It's a Velcro patch.
It's a Velcro patch. Very nice.
That's right.
Very nice. But it's in mint, and you'll never use it.
No, I use this one. It's not mint.
Oh, it's not mint.
Yeah, this is one I've used. Yeah, had it for 20 years, though.
Oh, interesting. Okay, Daniel, what would you give those memes?
I give it a metal train pencil sharpener.
Oh,
wow.
Nice.
Wow. That's very, very detailed.
And the train car stores the shavings.
That's right.
That is really
we just aged ourselves, right?
Boom! All right, guys, we want to know if you agree with those stories. If you disagree, let us know down in the comment section. Make sure to subscribe to us on alternative video platforms like rumble.com, personal favorite bitcointv.com. Join our Telegram group. It's a party in there. Join right now, our Telegram group. The link is down below. You could link us some memes, and we could review them on the meme review. There's a lot of plebs in there talking crap. It's a good time. Join our Telegram group. And of course, if you're listening to the Twitter Spaces audio version of this episode, make sure to stay until after the show. So because we're going to do a live hangout, Q&A. Svetsky, Mark Moss came to the one today. It was really cool. But anyways, Phil, it's time for... No, it's not time for anything. There was an open source software release today. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Software releases. Brought to you by CipherSafe. Check them out, cyphersafe.io. I can confidently say nobody is storing their seed here in paper. Everybody is storing their seed in steel using the Cypher Wheel or the all-new Cypher Grid. They both come with a tamper-resistant wire. Oh, and the grid comes with a punch tool. And you know what? Actually, Daniel, since we have Daniel here... Daniel, I hear there's some new stuff coming out from CipherSafe. What do you got for us?
Yeah, we're moving into physical Bitcoin art, specifically metal, and working on our first product right now. It's going to be a Rouleau triangle with the Bitcoin logo and other artwork attached to it. So we're pretty excited about it all.
Very exciting. Exciting to see this. Okay, very cool. All right, we've got Samourai Wallet version 0.99.98e that was released. It's down below in the show notes. Guys, don't forget to check us out on our audio-only platforms. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Don't forget to check us out on fountain.fm. You could stream us sats through Breeze.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. All right, guys, that was our show. Before we go, I want to give a very special shout out to the legendary Pirate Beach Bum. Check out Simply Bitcoin Unfiltered, www.simplybitcoin.news, pure pleb signal. If it's your first time in a bear market, definitely want to check it out. Simply Bitcoin will help you through the process. Also want to give a very special shout out to our clothing sponsor, RepresentLTD.com. Phil and I wear the hoodies every single day. Not only are they stylish, they're also very comfortable. He's coming out with more Bitcoin merch and Simply Bitcoin merch dropping soon. Definitely not going to want to miss it. Also want to give a very special shout out to a friend of the show and legend. You can go give him a follow at Cypher Safe. Shout out to Daniel. Shout out to
Thank
Archie,
you.
who is the genius behind the Cypher Wheel. Definitely want to check out cyphersafe.io. Guys, that was our show. If you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Of course, you want to continue hearing the Bitcoin news from the pleb perspective and the catastrophic fails and the memes. Definitely consider subscribing to Simply Bitcoin, and we'll see you tomorrow, guys, for a brand new episode.
If this is a clown world, why aren't we laughing?